Okay, this is Korea's turn. Similar presentation, how narrative therapy got into Korea. Narrative therapy was officially introduced in Korea in 2001 when Michael first visited Korea for a workshop. The participants of the workshop were professors who teach family therapy in different disciplines, counselors, and graduate students of family therapy. During this time, Michael introduced the concepts of externalization, reauthoring, and the definition of ceremonies. At that time, in 2001, in Korea, the only postmodern therapy method known to family therapy counselors and professors was the solution-focused brief therapy. The originator of the method, Insu Kimberg, along with this chaser, being Korean, had many opportunities to hold workshops and give personal supervisions in Korean language. That was the advantage. So, however, despite the widespread knowledge of the solution therapy method, there was relatively little emphasis on the philosophical background on its method, at least in Korea. I remember that this made it very difficult for even those accustomed to solution therapy to understand when Michael introduced post-structuralism, when he criticized the traditional metaphor of the human mind as an onion with layers, and placed emphasis on the lifelong reconstruction of personal identity. They just had a hard time understand how identity could be reconstructed over time. So questions that brought up at the first workshop to Michael were like, how would he differentiate narrative therapy from cognitive model? Because he did not talk about emotion at all. And the emotion issue came up as well. People did not like the idea of not actively engaging clients' emotion. Afterwards, Michael visited Korea once more in 2004 and lectured on scaffolding, remembering conversations, and the use of therapeutic documents. In 2005, I and two other colleagues with a small fund from the Korean Association of Family Therapy had the opportunity to assess the status of family therapy in Korea by conducting a national survey of all family therapy related institutions. The interesting thing from the results was that the counselors were the most unfamiliar, but at the same time, the most interested in learning narrative therapy because at that time, number of people who were taught, not even trained in narrative therapy, were less than 50. Therefore, narrative therapy was still an approachable foreign approach to many in Korea. In 2008, Michael's workshop had been scheduled in November, but he never made it. I was in the middle of translating his book, Maps of Narrative Practice, that time, and the period from the moment on until the publication of the book became the period of grief. I had met Michael over and over again in the course of creating the Korean version of the maps. In 2011, 10 years later, after Michael first visited Korea, about 10 of us inspired by narrative therapy got together and, with the support from Dolichi Center, founded the Korean Society for Narrative Therapy. Since then, the Society hosts semi-annual conferences, workshops. People like John Stillman and Maggie Carey came, and also provided 40-hour beginner workshop every year. In the beginner workshop, 5 Korean instructors, including me, are invited to lecture different components of narrative therapy, including philosophical underpinnings. Post-structuralism and post-modernism are very much emphasized in this education. In addition, there are geographically based reflecting teams nationwide. Members of the society are encouraged to get together and share their practice experiences among themselves. There are about 30 reflecting teams nationwide, but they are still developing, and about only half meet on a regular basis still. So many narrative therapy instructors have visited Korea to give lectures and live interviews on narrative therapy. But even with Korean professors publishing translated works, the world of narrative therapy to most people, including counselors and professors, is still a mystery. From, from my experiences of teaching narrative therapy, I have found that it is very useful to draw from literary and oral aspects of Korean culture, such as its folklores, proverbs, slangs, and everyday phrases. Although narrative therapy originates from the West, it is my observation that its concepts of human life and relational identity have been and will always be a fundamental part of all human beings, making possible to interpret narrative ideas through any cultural context. It is especially important when educating counselors that the focus be on explaining the ideas in a more intuitive way rather than cognitive, logical way. So first, for example, externalization. There's a Korean proverb saying, hate the sin, but not the sinner. And the next one is distancing. Distancing helps objectify the problem. There's a Korean proverb saying, it is the darkest under the lamp. Although the lamp lights up the surroundings, it remains dark underneath, highlighting how this highlights how the client is unaware of what is going on. So distancing helps clients to step into the light. This way of explaining the concept helps students to understand the concept in a more concrete way, in a more like a daily language way. Unique outcome. It is like finding a needle in a haystack. There's a Korean expression. The sky may collapse, but there's always an exit. So regardless of the client's situation, you must have faith in you that there's always a way out. So bearing this saying in your mind with a lot of patience, open your ears and look for any cracks in the sky.
I just identify myself like the 1.5 generation or second generation of the narrative therapist in Korea. I learned the narrative therapy from the Sang-hae, who was my doctoral advisor at my graduate school. So I feel very blessed to know about this narrative work. And as a second generation, I thought my role is to spread the word and how I can deliver the idea to the third generation. So that's why I'm focusing on the more how I can deliver the narrative idea via online, which I'm working on. The narrative therapy is the discourse at my university. The average age is 40s and 50s, like the continuing education for themselves. The course aims to introduce primary ideas of narrative therapy. In the course, there are 4 components: history, philosophy, theoretical concepts, and practice and ethics for 13 weeks. Today, and I'm focusing on presentation, how I deliver the narrative ideas via online course. It is not easy to explain what postmodernism and narrative philosophy to students who does not have any idea about philosophy. I try to how important philosophy as a frame to understand and interpret all things happen around us. I try to explain the social constructivism, and I'm using the literature Friedman and Holmes. I found the one video clip from YouTube that is the tells about how we look, have the perspective can affect to see how it look like. For example, this one, even we see that is truth or that is fact, but it cannot be. Sometimes, it couldn't be, right? So it tells about the video clip. It's more powerful than what I just delivered as my language. So sometimes the visualized video clip can make more powerful explanation to deliver to them. I interview them and ask how they met the narrative therapy first, and also ask about what does that mean to them as a professional and individual. And also end of that the questionnaire, I always ask them to what is any advice or any comment to the future narrative therapist as the first generation. The third part, that's the practice component, and I try to let students to read many transcripts as much as they can. So one of the classes, I introduced the case of the lion from the book, from the Mike White's Maps of the Narrative Practice, which Sunhae translated into already. So that's my main textbook. So my university, Kyung Cyber University, is able to provide technology support, like to make animation with a professional voice. So we hire professional voice. So for this course, and I asked the part of the lion's case to make animation to help students understand how narrative therapy counseling is. End of the semester, I also invited some students to the counseling center, which practice narrative therapy. And there are conversations with the narrative therapist and students and myself all together. So that inspires them have some connection, not just watching only. And beside of my official course, and I also share my journal sometimes. For example, in March I met David in Singapore. So right after meeting with him, so inspired. So I just share with my students. Currently, I'm taking the courses that with the picture together. So and then at that time in Singapore, I'm not sure whether he remember or not, but to me, it's one of the biggest. The message was the practice, practice, and practice. That's his word. So I just put the word first, then I just say that training yourself. Yeah. So that's why end of the semester they put that. Okay, I still remember, and also he used the metaphor for the surgeon and with the knife. So why we should practice. For your information, the first semester I taught at the university, 40 students took the class. But this semester, about 200 students. Yeah.
It would seem to me that narrative therapy is strongest in popular and thriving in South Korea more than any other country in the world. So this is a little of a conundrum. And Michael, before he died, told me that. I didn't believe him. I go, oh, that couldn't be. But it is so. And I was just like, what? So I'm curious, because this is important for us to even contemplate. Why do you think narrative therapy has been, adopted with such enthusiasm in your country? I'm not expecting a simple answer, but there's something to be learned here.
The world is changing, and things that are happening is happening everywhere, almost at the same time, or just lag a little bit, but it's happening. And what Koreans are experiencing right now is just they feel like they are pushed to the edge of the cliff, just cornered, just crushed there. They need they need a way out, and wants to find out how to just move around in front of the huge obstacles, rocks. So I'm gonna just read a few lines just to give you an example of what is going on in Korea. We are facing with a new social risk. It has to do with neoliberalism and globalization. Korea, as a society, is aging rapidly. Male breadwinner model is no longer sustained. More and more females are entering the labor market for various reasons. And Koreans work the most hours per week in the world. The number of decent jobs is decreasing, etc. In the middle of all these, traditional patriarchal values still dominate in Korea. They seem appearing in the private domain, but still very dominant at the institutional level. This combined with a new social risk, people are suffering from high level of stress. Such expressions and such as well-being, healing, and rest are very popular in daily conversations and on various advertisements. The rate of suicide is among the highest in the world. The birth rate is the lowest in the world right now. Young people are losing hope. The caregiving needs for illness, disability, child care, elder care have been largely unmet. There is an expression to describe this situation, especially of a younger generation. The generation is referred to as countless given-ups generation. Countless given-ups?
Given-ups.
Given-ups. Countless given-ups, is that the right expression?
Yeah.
They are giving up stable job, courtship, social relationships, marriage, kids, owning a house, and the dreams and hopes, etc., etc., etc.
Sumie, would the word hikikomori be the same as what Sunhai is speaking about? The
It
given
might
ups?
be.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, yeah. We do have those people just staying at home with their parents, not working, working on a computer all the time.
That's one version of many.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's who
I
Sumie
think so.
works with.
Hikikomori, right?
Hikikomori.
Yeah, hikikomori.
Hikikomori.
And then there's so many things that social
Yeah.
phenomena that you were referring to are almost the same here happening. So that countless given ups totally culturally resonates in our country as well.
But why in the US, I would say that's true too, but narrative therapy is not taken off.
You got CBT. You
Yeah.
don't need it.
Okay, so there's something else, right?
Something is very liberating, they say.
Yeah.
Counselors as well as clients, it's very liberating.
Yeah.
And they get messages like it's okay not to conform the collectivistic idea.
Right.
So it's okay not to conform.
So it's a language of possibility.
Yeah, language of possibility. Just
Would even subversion be a word that you would think of?
um,
That allows for subversion?
I don't know. I get that word
Oh,
correctly.
to go against. Countercultural, if I use that word.
It's gonna take a little bit
Yeah.
more time for that.
Yeah.
Because basically culturally, people tend to be compliant, trying to conform. But at the individual level, I mean, people just are eager to embrace this new narrative idea, and especially counselors in their counseling,
Yeah.
in their therapy, they themselves feel really relieved. It's like an outlet, crack in the sky.
Yeah.
The crack in the sky.
Yeah, crack in the sky that they can get out.
Yeah.